song for you. I like it. What are we talking about tonight, boss?
A bouncy chair. Hello and welcome to the Podcasting and Live Streaming channel. I am your host, Shelley Carney. Tonight we'll be talking about all the technical problems we've been having and how we solve them step by step and how you may do the same thing.
Just by hanging out with us, apparently. Did you introduce yourself?
I did, but you didn't.
Oh, me, Toby. I like this one.
Do you want to produce a live stream, podcast, and blog to expand your brand and business? Come experience live stream and podcast technology coaching with Shelley Carney and Toby Younis. Every week you'll receive recommendations, reviews, tips and tools to design a live stream video and podcast home studio that will enhance your business and expand your professional online presence. Subscribe today and discover the steps to mastering the technology to create amazing live videos and podcast episodes that will bring you success, fun and fulfillment as you reach the world with your message.
All right.
Olivia. Huh?
Anna. That's Anna.
Anna. All right.
Olivia will
Yeah,
come at
that's
the
it.
end.
Okay.
I think we liked Anna better.
So
You need to
You-
scooch this way.
you were asking
half
about
off.
that music?
Yeah.
So today I was moving it over to the pod track.
Yeah.
And I accidentally grabbed the wrong one because it was still in the assets folder. I grabbed it and I played it, uploaded it, did the whole thing, put it on the SD card, put it in the pod track, played it, and I went, "Oh no, we're not going to go through that."
You want to deal with that
Yeah.
issue.
All right, let me do some banners here. Make sure we got that going for us. Who are we tonight?
The Podcasting and Live Streaming channel.
Mhm.
That's us.
And let's see, on the podcasting and live streaming channel, we would appreciate it if you would like our programming, share with your family, friends, your neighbors, and subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. We would like the heck out of that. And on the podcasting and live streaming channel, the super chat light is lit. So if you go down to the bottom of your comment screen, you'll see a grayed out but stylized $sign, stylized but grayed out $sign. Click on that $sign. YouTube will walk you through the process of contributing to what we like to refer to as our little project. Okay. Tell me where we're going with this.
So, last week, Windows did an update. And what?
You know what I love about life? Let me tell you what I love about life. I love the fact that every week she comes up with these ideas for these shows and I don't have to worry about it. It's a blessing. You may not know that, but it's a blessing.
Okay. So, as I was saying, last week, Windows did an update and it caused numerous problems for us. Foremost for me was my hard drive crashed, which had the system for my computer on it. So it took me a little while to recover. Yeah. And then, of course, we had some issues on Toby's computer as well. And with the Rodecaster. It seemed to be one of those weeks when all the technology was failing. We prayed to the tech gods above and said, please help us. And we went through our list of checks and balances and trying to make sure that we were following all these steps necessary because this one never gives up. My first step one, honey, my computer's broken. Come
Not
fix
me,
it.
honey. Her husband, honey.
Yeah. So I tell my husband, fix my computer. And so he worked on it all week and determined that there was no saving the hard drive, system drive, the C drive. It would have to be replaced. So we did that on the weekend. What do you want to tell him about the Windows update and what it did to our technology, because you understand it better than I do. I just call out for help.
So a long time ago, Apple wrote an operating system that we knew then as the Macintosh operating system. And what made it advantageous was they built the user interface. What you see is what you get, WYSIWYG user interface. And they told everybody down that was going to build applications, here's the rules, the APIs, application programming interfaces, the rules that you have to adhere to, but we're going to manage the interface. It's always going to be a Macintosh interface. And to this day, when you open up a Mac, whether it's your laptop or your an Apple computer product, it's still that interface. It's evolved over the years. Windows tried to do something as interesting, but fell short. They tried to manage the interface, but they left the application programming segment open. And so you could do things, you could interact with the Windows, the operating system interface in a way that you couldn't in any other computer. What that puts you at risk is assuming you're following all of Microsoft's rules when it comes to this stuff, then everything works normally. Until, and I don't know, every one of these application software developers that do business with either Apple or Microsoft, and that do business, but I mean, by which I mean build applications to run on those operating systems, probably worries in the same way. You know, when we get a telephone update, a cell phone update, and we go like, oh, what's going to go wrong now? Well, that's how those poor application developers feel. Microsoft says, or Apple says it's going to put out an OS update, and they go, oh my God, what are they changing now? And every once in a while, something bad happens, and they all complain. Well, Windows, they make updates to the Windows operating system regularly.
Yeah, weekly at least.
And we know because we wake up the next day and our Windows looks completely different to us in the sense that, oh, they made an update last night. Well, last week they made an update, and it must have affected some products. Now, the one that it affected for us was Vegas, the Sony Vegas video editor. And
18 Platinum.
Right. Well, it's the latest version of the video editor. It's their high-end video editor. We've been using it. I have been personally using it since the early 2000s, since it was in version 1 or 2. So I'm very familiar with it, and I can always tell when there's something goofy about it. And we had recorded a video the night before, and my job was to edit the video, trim it up, and then load it to a product that we use online called Vidnami. Well, I started to do what we normally do to this video, and actually, that isn't true. I was putting the equipment away, and Shelley knows enough about the process that she was going to load it, take care of it. She knows what I do to these videos to make them the best possible video that we have. And she came in here, and I was putting the equipment away because we actually shoot the teleprompter work in my living room. And I came in to see how she was doing.
No, I called you and I was like, hey, what is this? I'm seeing a green screen. Where did this even come from?
Tell this part of the story, because it was you that kind of prompted this whole process.
Yeah, I'd never seen that before. I had uploaded our video clip. It's 2.5 minutes long, not a big deal, not more than our editing program can normally handle. It's not even in 4K. It's at 1080p. I upload it, and going to cut off the front and the back just to get the edges off. And then while I was looking for the front edge, I came across a green frame. And I'm like, where is this green frame coming from? So I called Toby in to look at it.
And what was weird about it is the green happened to be chroma key green, and it was just a single frame. And I thought, don't worry about it. Maybe it was one of the frames. And here's another thing. The camera that I use to shoot with, our video with, is the same system that I've been using for 5 or 6 years now. How long have I had the Lumix?
Oh, yeah.
At least 5 or 6 years. And I have more than one of them, and I use them for everything: video, or photos, still or moving images, and I know them back and forth, right? They've never, ever failed me for any reason unless I make a mistake. So I looked at it, and when I saw it, my first reaction was, maybe it's just the camera did something. It didn't catch a frame or something, and that's what it put in. I said, let me delete the frame. Let's not worry about it. Let's go ahead with the processing. So we finished up the editing that we were doing, and we're going to render it. And when it started to render, it just went clunky. I mean, it just, you can watch the render as it's going from frame to frame, and it was putting in color overlays, and it was just clunky in general. It just didn't look good. And then all of a sudden it quit and it hung up. I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. So at this point, I took over, and there was a point at which I was trying to get this done, and Shelley had to go home. Anyway, it was time for her to get home. So I spent literally the rest of the night doing the troubleshooting. And I'm going to kind of give you the steps that I went through in order to get to where I got by the next day. So step one is always close the product if you can close it. Otherwise, just use your task manager to end it. And then restart the product. So I restarted the product, went through the whole process, got the same result. So I closed it. Next step is not only restart the product, but restart the computer, right? It's a Microsoft Windows problem. Let's see if that fixes it. So I restarted that problem, restarted the computer, restarted the program, brought in the same file that we had been using, tried to do the same thing. And what was interesting is the green frame, something that we don't ever see, right? The green frame not only showed up where it initially showed up, but now there was a couple more green frames. And when I'd go to render it, which and black frames, yeah. And when I'd go to render it, it would produce the same result. So I thought, okay, what's the next step in troubleshooting? Maybe it's the file. So I took a file, a video that we had shot about 2 weeks ago that we had already rendered. We had run it through our Vidnami product, and it was already uploaded, and everything was normal. I mean, it looked like we wanted it to look. So I knew that file, the starting file, was in good shape. So just to be sure, I closed down the program. Oh, and I was getting a new result with the program. It was starting the render. It would go clunky, and then all of a sudden it would stop, and I would get a message that said, your computer doesn't have enough memory to finish this render. Please close some of your applications. Well, here's the deal with this computer. It has 32 gigabytes of RAM, and it has its own video card, an NVIDIA GPU card that has another 32 gigabytes. And when I checked, whenever I look at what Vegas is doing, it uses, when it's rendering, anywhere from 22 to 30% of the first GPU and about 7% of the second. So, and there were no other applications running. So this was not, I have too many things running, I'm going to stop. That's what it said it was doing. So I thought, okay, let me restart the system, restart the application, bring in file number 2, which had already been edited, rendered, put up through Vidnami, where we had our text and our music, and then uploaded to our YouTube channel. So I knew this particular file was in really good shape. I put it in, I opened up the application, imported the file, made the same modifications, and started the render, and it stopped and told me that it didn't have enough memory. I opened my task manager, looked at memory, 22%. So at this point, I knew there was something wrong with Vegas, and I had to conclude that it was something wrong with only Vegas, but not Windows. I couldn't blame this on Windows just yet. Okay? Stop the computer. Uninstall Vegas. I'm sorry, stop the application, restart the computer, uninstall Vegas, and reinstall Vegas. I still have the original installation app. So I thought, again, what I'm trying to do is follow up and make sure that there's nothing wrong with my application. There's nothing wrong with Windows. It's my application that's wrong. So I reinstalled Vegas from scratch, started over again, brought the old file in, file number 2, just in case there was something wrong with. I didn't believe there was something wrong with file number 1, but I brought in file number 2 because I was certain there was nothing wrong, and the same thing happened. It crashed again. So at this point, I have to assume that happened to Vegas as a result of the Windows update, because Vegas was perfectly normal right up until the day before that Windows update. So that left us in a bit of a quandary, since that's the editor that we use. My next step was to try 2 more files, files number 3 and 4, in order to ensure it was Vegas. Then when it did it, Vegas gives you the option of reporting it to them. I reported it to them. I stopped everything, and I Google searched, is anybody experiencing problems with Vegas? There were some complaints as recent as within the 24 hours. What's wrong with my Vegas? It keeps crashing. There weren't any that were as descriptive as what we were experiencing, but everybody who was complaining about the crash, that it was crashing on them. There was no response from Sony. So that left me with this interesting problem. I'm on Vegas Pro 18, and I had upgraded from Vegas Studio, which is their light version, 17. Pardon? Movie Studio. So I had upgraded from Movie Studio 17 to Vegas 18. And that was going from not only from light to pro, but from one generation to the next. And that 18 was current Vegas. And it was because they offered us some special price. Shelley did the same thing on her computer. In the meantime, Shelley got her computer back to working, and I gave her a copy of the same file, and she tried to render it in Vegas 18 and had exactly the same experience. So now we know we know that we have a problem with Vegas, but that it is not likely Vegas, that is somehow in the relationship between Vegas and that recent Windows update. So I have 2 problems. Number 1, I've got a troubleshooting problem that I've got to work through, and you can see the steps that I've gone through. Now, the steps that I've gone through are the result of troubleshooting this kind of stuff. When you're troubleshooting analog problems, if your film comes out of the developer and it looks wrong, you can blame it on the developer, you can blame it on your timing, you can blame it on things. The problem is that film is gone. As we made the transition into the digital world, it made it easier for us in terms of troubleshooting, but you had to learn all the possible ways things could go wrong. So over the years, I've learned all the possible things that can go wrong, and I apply a troubleshooting practice to them where I basically start with all the components and test all the components. That's the first thing to do. That includes shutting all the components off, shutting them back on, and that way you can come to the conclusion. I knew from experience that what I was seeing was not a Vegas problem. It was a problem of Vegas running under the new Windows update. And that's because I had gone through that process. Now, I will have to admit, Shelley will tell you this, that when I start one of these things, I get really persistent about it. So Shelley left about 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night. And I remember texting her at 6:30 in the morning saying, I think we have a Vegas problem and I'm going to bed, kind of thing. I'll call you later. So I get really persistent. Well, that's not the right word. Is it persistent?
Yeah.
That I get a problem. But I work these things out until I find either a solution to the problem or I can identify what's wrong.
Or a workaround.
Or a workaround.
Which is what we ended up
So
with.
we ended up, and that's where, so when I realized I didn't have access to 18. I went back to my file folder of old install packages, and I found, and of course I didn't found, I knew it was there, Movie Studio 17. And I knew enough about what we were doing that there was nothing in 18 that we were using that wasn't already in 17. So 18 is definitely an enhancement. There's some cool things that they have, but we weren't using them anyway. So I reinstalled, turned off the computer, started the computer again, uninstalled 18, installed 17, finished the install, restarted the computer, came back to 17, opened it up, and brought file number 1 into it. I went through it frame by frame for about the first, 10 seconds worth. That's 300 frames, no green frames. So that was a positive. Then I made the changes that we make to each one of these videos to make it look really good. I made the changes, no problems. And then I decided to do a render. I had enough, and I rendered that video, and it rendered. And I looked at the rendering, and it was perfect. So now 17 is working under Windows. What was interesting about 17 is that when I opened it, I hadn't used it in a long time since we upgraded to 18. And it said, by the way, there's an update to 17 you don't have. Would you like to download it? And I thought, you know what? I got this thing working right now. Let's not even mess with it. And I expect that at some point we'll get an update from Vegas, from Sony, from Magix, which is the company that does all this for Sony, saying that, oh, we have a nice update for you. Please download it. And that should happen within a week, right? But that was the process that I went through, testing each of the components, breaking down, but trying to identify, not figure out, trying to identify which of the components was creating the problem. It turned out to be the software. It turned out to be something that I couldn't fix in the software, that it was the software's problem. And that, as I concluded, it was probably the result of the Windows update. And that's between Sony Vegas and Windows. I can't do anything about that. Fortunately, we did have the backup software. Did you end up reinstalling 17 too?
Not yet.
Yeah, but Shelley has the same copy.
I was
going to
wait until this week and see if Windows
does another update.
And
We've had this particular computer. It's a Xeon workstation processor with 32 gig and 2 terabyte hard drive with a video card. And when Shelley was due for another computer, I got her the exact same computer. So that way we know when we install or uninstall a product that the results should be the same. And she tested it. Did I say that already? Where you tested it with 18?
Yeah.
And she got the same result, the same negative
with my
result.
new drive.
Right. So I think there's 2 things that save us in those cases. 3 things. Number 1, we don't panic. We don't panic and start running around with our hair on fire. We start looking for ways, and that's something that I've been doing for years. That's the nature of how I behave in these situations, not to panic and figure out what the problem is. The second thing is persistence. You can't give up until you solve the problem. And sometimes for me, it's a stay up all night, but there's time that doesn't bother me. I could have gone to bed, got up the next morning, showered, shaved, come into the studio and started working the problem. And it would have been just as good because I still at some point have to get some sleep. So that's the first thing. Don't panic. Plan your persistence, and then start the process of breaking down each of the components to determine where the problem lies. And once you've identified the problem, decide what you're going to do about it. Is it, I can't give up on Vegas 18. I paid for it and I want to use it and it has some features that I like, but I'm not going to use it as long as I can't produce results that we need to run our business. So a good alternative was going back to, which is maybe a good lesson, save all your install packages every time you upgrade to something, save the old ones. Because it was having saved those. And I have install packages all the way. I was looking at it. I have install packages all the way back to 14. and that's years worth of installs. So had not.
I think you said 8 actually.
Did it? Was it 8?
Yeah.
I know it's been a long time. But had we, I guess the point that I was going to make is, had 17 behaved the same way, I would have gone back to 16, and I would have kept going back until I got the result that I wanted. Now, there's a point at which, and I couldn't tell you which version it was, there were features in that version. There were features in these versions that those older versions didn't have, so I wouldn't have been able to solve the problem anyway. It didn't work out that way, and I would have probably tried back to a certain point at which, back to the version that didn't have those features anyway. So it was disappointing because we have, I have a 20 plus year, well, not 20 plus, probably 20-year relationship with Sony Vegas. And it's my editor of choice. I've tried other editors, and the interface just isn't as comfortable for me as the Sony. And you all know how that feels when you get comfortable with one product. So it was a disappointment to see that they were having a problem and that it wasn't something I could fix. It was something that they had to fix, and I have to wait until they do that. But again, the keys are don't panic, commit to the solution, break down all the components until you can identify which component is broken, and then figure out a workaround, right? Replacement or workaround.
And one of the workarounds that we tried with my hard drive, because we first assumed that it was the Windows update that made it so that the drive wouldn't boot up the computer anymore. So we tried to go back to do restore back to the old last Windows update. And I don't know if you can explain how that's done. So
one of the things that you can do is, if you have a bad Windows update, or if you have a Windows update that causes one of the a problem with a program that you're used to using, like we did in the case of Vegas, one of the options I could have taken was I could have gone to Windows and I would have told it, and the BIOS, you can actually change this. You can say to it, don't open with this current version of Windows. Go back to this version of Windows. And I would have gone back to the version of Windows that I knew was working, in this case with Vegas. Now, that means I would have missed some of the updates they made, but I didn't see anything as I went through what they did in Windows. They were mostly security updates. I didn't see anything that related to application programming or application utilization. So there was something about one of those security updates that changed the way that Vegas behaved. It didn't change the way my computer behaved for me, but if I had wanted to, I could have gone back. And Windows does the same thing. If you look at your Windows folders, you'll see all those updates, for several months until it decides it doesn't have enough room. And you could go back to that the previous update, and you could restart your computer with that version of Windows, making the problem go away. You guys couldn't do that because you lost that drive.
Yeah, it just stopped working. And we looked at it, and it's from 2014. And so we figured it was just too old to go back to.
Yeah, that was playing with fire at that point.
And so we spent the $50 and bought a new C drive.
Yeah.
And all of my documents and information I save on my D drive. So it's separated out. The C drive is what has the operating system and programs. So I had to re-download and install several programs, but once that's done, of course, it's recognized as a whole different computer now. Yeah. So I have to sign back into a whole bunch of things and go through those security protocols to get into accounts that either are mine or we share. So that's always another ordeal.
Yeah.
But we'll get back to normal soon. Now, it was difficult for me because I was off my computer for several days, so I got a little behind on certain things like my blog and a couple of online meetings that I had to miss. I could have done through my phone, but I just didn't feel like it, so I didn't do it because I thought, you know what, these are not that important to me that I'm going to stress over it. So that's what I did. And now they have the new hard drive and things are working well again. We had one other issue that we're going to discuss about a piece of equipment that we use.
Yeah, let's go to the hardware
that had
side
an
of all this.
issue.
Hold on, that was the software side. I'm going to get something from the equipment closet. Hold on.
So today we're using a different audio source. We're using the Zoom PodTrack. Luckily, we had it, so we have backups. We have backups for things.
We have backups.
So
backups.
when something fails, half an hour before our show is going to start, we usually can install a backup solution quickly so that we can stay on track with what we've promised to our audience.
So you hear me talk about it all the time. I talk about our audio interface. It's made by Rode, and it's called the Rodecaster Pro. I'm going to change the screen over here so you can see it. Well, I'm going to show you something first. So we've been using that for over 3 years now, and I literally became like it. It's like Vegas. It became my favorite product, and the more I learned about it, the more I loved it. The more updates they had. It's a digital mixer, so they can update the firmware, and you get cool things with it every time they update it. And so when and it's a big investment. You can buy a 4-channel mixer, analog mixer, for $80 or $90 off Amazon. And that's what we had done. Like other people, we had been doing that for years. But when this digital mixer came out, I thought, we've got to have this, and we'll just allow it to grow with us. There's going to be upgrades that they're going to do to the firmware, so it's going to continue to improve. It's built by Rode, so it's guaranteed for at least 1 year. They give you another, if you register, they give you another year. Well, I've had it for over 3 years now. We've had it for over 3 years. And one of the things that we wanted to get away from was having to wear the headsets. Now, I happen to be okay with that because I've always done this. So I've always done this kind of recording. But I know that Shelley would prefer not to have to use it. And she doesn't have to worry about it when we're doing this together. She can hear me without the headset, right? So I ordered a couple of lavalier microphones, right? So that we could use and not have to worry about the headset. The microphone would fit here, would be out of the way. And there were 2 empty XLR inputs on the Rodecaster that we could use to manage them. We'd never even have to unplug them. We would just make the choice. Do we have, for example, if we had a guest, we need to have the headsets. Otherwise, we can't hear the guest. We could put them through the speaker, but then you guys could hear them, and there'd be some terrible echo going on. So, but when we don't have a guest, there's no need for the headsets. We can hear each other. We're having a conversation, right? Shelley and I, when we have the headsets on, we actually hear each other through the headsets. Okay. So I went and got these lavalier microphones, ordered them from Amazon. They're very good microphones. They're made by a company called Movo. They're cardioid mics, so they only pick up the audio from right here. And they're good. Now, they're not as good as the microphones on this Audio-Technica headset. And that's because these headsets were specifically designed for sports broadcasters, guys in a stadium or a football stadium or a basketball stadium, time to announce the game, and they couldn't pick up any other noises. So Shelley will tell you, I'm just a big fan of these. We have 4 of them, right? Backups, et cetera, et cetera. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch over and I'm going to share my screen with you. And this is our Rodecaster Pro. Okay. And you can see the controls. It has 4 microphone input controls right here. This is the relationship. This is the audio that controls the relationship between the Rodecaster and the computer. Everything's going in and out from the Rodecaster and the computer. And that way, when I play a video from YouTube, you can hear it. And that's the control for it, right? That's also the control if I have a guest and I want to modulate their audio, I can do it there. This is a plug-in phone. This is a source for a plug-in if you want to plug your phone in. This is if you want to use your phone Bluetooth, and this is the audio control for the sound pads. Those are the sound pads, all right? On the back, in order for those inputs to work, they have what are called XLR inputs and 1/4-inch phono outputs and a set of studio monitor speaker cables. So we have studio monitors mounted up here that if we're working and we don't want to have our headset on and we want to hear what's going on, we just use the studio monitors. Here's the connection for an SD card. So there's an SD card plugged in there if I want to start recording. And this is the connection to the computer, power. This is the on-off switch. All right. So we are plugged into, Toby is plugged into number 1 input. Shelley is plugged into number 2 input. I'm plugged into number 1 output, and Shelley's plugged into number 2. 3 and 4 we have available to us, and the only time we've ever used it is when we had a guest. Cynthia Meacham came in one time and was our guest, and we just plugged her into that. She didn't need the audio because she was talking with us. All right. So I thought to myself, since I have these new microphones there, as I said, XLR inputs, I'll just plug them into 3 and 4, and we'll just keep them there. And the way that I'll control them is, you can see down here, there are red light buttons, those buttons with the speaker on them. I can just turn them off. So if we're using the headsets, I can turn off the 2 microphones. If we're using the microphones, I can turn off the 2 headsets. Well, that was my plan. So we went ahead and installed them in 3 and 4, and then we went back and we thought to ourselves, well, we didn't think to ourselves as a part of the process, let's test them out to see how they sound. And so we turned off the headsets. Now, right down here, you'll see a headphone monitor. So I plugged in another set of headphones there, took off the headset, Shelley and I, hooked up the lavalier mics on each of us, and I started testing the audio. And I was testing the audio by turning off the other headsets to make sure there was no echo from them, and then turning these on, and then adjusting the sliders. And I noticed right away that my microphone the volume was very, not just low, but very, very low in comparisons to Shelley's volume. And the sliders were in the same location. So I started raising mine until I was at the top of the range. I couldn't go any higher than that. And my volume was still lower than Shelley's, which is unusual because normally what I have to do is turn my volume down in order to be comparable with Shelley. And I could see here on the monitor screen, because it monitors it digitally, that it was lower. I thought, I got a bad microphone. I'm going to have to send it back. So we knew, again, we had a problem. So I started the troubleshooting process. The first step in the troubleshooting process. Now, one of the things that we've learned about Windows is that it makes decisions about your sound levels independent of whatever you're doing. And just to prove that to you, I'm going to open this window up and I'm going to show it to you. This is the Windows sound control card. Right? It's like a control panel. And you tell it what you want. So right now, I have the headphone set in. And if I go to, if I click on that headphones and ask for properties, it gives me a new window. Oh, you can't see us there, can you? Hang on. So Shelley can see what I'm doing here. There we go. So it gives us a new window. It gives me some general information, generic audio. It says Zoom P4 audio, and I'll explain why it's showing you that right now. Then it shows levels, and these are headphone levels. There is on occasion where we won't be able to hear out of our headphones, and it's because it's changed that level. I would prefer, I demand that I have control of the levels. That way I control them here. Every once in a while, it will decide to do that. So one of the routines that we have before every time we start a show is I check the levels, not only for the headphones, close that. If I go to recording, here's the Zoom P4, show the properties, and there's the levels. And as you can see, the levels have dropped down to 31. I can't change that right now because if I did, it's going to sound like this. Watch. 3, 4.
That's correct.
So it'll make these arbitrary changes without you even knowing it. So again, one of our pre-show processes is to make sure that those levels are at 100, and that gives me complete control of levels on the, in this case,
Did that change the first one?
no,
Okay.
we're fine. So
Is
what
your
you should be able
microphone
to hear,
attenuating, by the way? 'Cause
it is attenuating. Did you
that's
notice
what
that?
Yeah.
So it must be something in there, because that's the P4. There's some sort of limiter that's happening. So I can hear it too when I get a little bit too loud. So yeah, that's the model P4. So I started the process of troubleshooting it. The first thing that I did was I turned everything off. I turned off the Rodecaster. I turned off the computer. I started the computer again. I went to the sound control panel and made sure the levels were at 100, so I didn't have to deal with any weird changes there. Now, when I found the problem with channel number 3 where I was plugged in, that's the first thing I checked. But started the process new. Okay. So once I had restarted everything, I listened to each of them. By this time, Shelley was doing something else, so she didn't have to go through this. So I listened to each one of them. Microphone 3, the microphone that plugged into 3 was still low. So I unplugged that microphone. I took Shelley's microphone in 4 and plugged it into 3. It was low. I plugged my microphone from 3 into 4, and it was fine. I took and I was playing with it to see what was wrong. So I tried plugging in the microphones, these microphones, which we've been using for years now. So I know exactly how to behave, and it was the same thing. This window right here is actually a touch screen, and that settings gear right there. I went through the settings for each of the microphones and made sure that they were exactly the same. There's only one difference. These microphones are dynamic, not condenser, and they don't require 48-volt phantom power. These microphones are condenser and require 48-volt phantom power, which the Rode will provide, right? So I made sure everything was plugged into the right place, and I tried it again. And sure enough, volume on number 3 was down. So I contacted Rode. I think that was after. So the next day I contacted Rode. I got their technical support. I started talking to them, and he said, "How long have you had it?" I told him. And he said, "Tell me what you've done to come to this conclusion." So I literally spent the next half hour explaining my troubleshooting process, everything that I've tried, and how I could easily come to the conclusion that there was something wrong with the volume control, the digital volume. It's not the slider. The slider is doing what it's supposed to do. The digital part of it, there's something wrong with that. It could have always been that way, although I don't recall that. We just didn't use it enough to be able to compare the differences. So I got them to agree that that it was channel number 3, that there was something wrong with channel number 3, and that they would have to fix it. So my next question was, how much is that going to cost me? Because if it cost me more than $600 with shipping and everything, I'll just buy a new one, right? Not that I'd prefer it to be that way. And he said, "When did you buy it?" And I told him, and he said, "Did you register it?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "Give me the name under which the email address." So he found it, and he said, "Oh, you're way out of warranty, even though you registered it. When you get 1 year worth of warranty, whether you register or not. If you register, you get an additional year worth of warranty." And he said, "Yeah, you're out of both the first year and the second year, but I'll write you an RA anyway." And what an RA is, a return. I forgot what the A stands for. Return acknowledgement, something. It's basically an agreement that says, send us your Rodecaster, and we will either fix it or send you a new one. So, but what made me confident that, or what gave him the confidence to do that, was the troubleshooting process that I described to him, where I did everything possible to figure out exactly where it was, and that it was a problem not with our microphones, not with our connections, not with our power levels, our windows, anything. We nailed it down to the volume, the digital volume control on channel 3. And I think that's what gave him the confidence to say, okay, don't worry about the warranty, just send it in. So I packaged up the insurance between the shipping and the insurance. It was like $34. So, and I'm going to have to wait to get that. And they'll make the decision about whether to repair it, or they could send me another one that either is new or refurbished. And I'm okay with that because I love this product so much. And I've done so much business with Rode that I trust that they'll do the best possible thing. Thankfully, they're actually an Australian company. And thankfully, they have a California office where all this stuff is done. But they were very polite. They'll send it back. They'll pay for. They'll send one back. They'll pay for shipping. It shouldn't take that long. I'm going to guess. I'm hoping 1 week, but it'll take 1 week to get there. So then they'll need a couple of days to look through it as they get to it. And then I figure by 3 weeks, I'll get my Rodecaster Pro back. So the big question then is, what do we do in between? Well, one of the things that I hope Shelley can back up is that whenever I buy a piece of equipment, I always do it in the context of a number of reasons. Do we need it? How long do we need it? How much will we use it? And can it act as a backup in any conditions? The Rodecaster that you're looking at, wow, it really is attenuating, isn't it? Mm. The Rodecaster, I'll see if I can modulate my voice. The Rodecaster is a $600 piece of equipment, but we wanted something more portable. So I'm going to go back to my Amazon store here. And here in the podcasting thing, this is the Zoom PodTrack P4. And I don't think the cables are loose enough to show you in the, let's see. That's it. It's a little tiny piece of equipment. I actually have it installed at an angle in what's designed to hold a cell phone. That's how compact it is. And we got it so that if we wanted to do any interviews in the field, it was perfect for that. Zoom is another company that Tascam, Zoom, and Rode are my audio companies. And I had several Zoom products. I have had and have several Zoom products. And this looked like a good solution. It has 4 inputs, 4 outputs, and it has 4 sound pads. And it also has a Bluetooth adapter so that if you wanted to include someone else in your call that was calling in on your cell phone, you could do that. So not only was it a good field recorder, but there was a point at which, when you consider the amount of what do they go with? Land space? What do they call it? Acreage. There's a word that they use. Space on my desktop that I get back. Real estate that I get back on my desktop. It's pretty amazing. So I packed up the Rode after we finished all our shows. Our last show was on Friday afternoon. I did a World Send project on Friday. Packed it up, took it to the post office on Saturday, and I didn't realize it, but the post office is not open on Saturdays anymore. So I took it in and shipped it on Monday, and I just got Alec is the guy that I'm dealing with, and I just got a message saying, we got your shipping thing, and we have your RA number. We'll let you know when we get it. So in the meantime, I had to look for a solution, so I plugged in the P4, and interestingly enough, it has kind of the same things. We decided to use it with these headsets, so I had to get a couple of audio adapters, but it has 4 XLR inputs, the Bluetooth input, the interface to the computer. It has everything that I needed. The difference was it only had 4 sound pads instead of the 8 that are on the Rodecaster. And here's, not that I need to bring this up, Rode just did an update where you can have 8 sets of 8 sound pads because it's digital. They're just amazing. I can honestly say that if you decide to go with a Rodecaster Pro, you will have this piece of it. It will outlast you in terms of equipment just because of the digital design. and it works with firmware, and it's not analog. So it's a wonderful, I could recommend this product forever and ever because it's that kind of product. Now, if you needed something smaller, because you can buy the Zoom P4 for $200 plus $50 for the Bluetooth. So that's $250 for kind of the same functionality. And you can hear the audio. Now, I forgot to, the one thing that you're hearing, and Shelley noticed, I had noticed it earlier, but I didn't say anything, is my voice is attenuating. That means it's got a limiter on it. And so when I start getting loud, it makes sure I don't get too loud, and it brings it down automatically. But I'm just loud. And so in order not to hit the limiter, I'm having to speak very softly for me. But it was a nice fill-in. As you can see, it has 4 inputs down here. Down here, you'll see are the 4 audio. Now, they're not 1/4 inch phono. They're 3.5 millimeter or 1/8 inch phono. And I got some adapters. So we're using the same headsets with it. And it's working nice. It works on AA batteries, but when you use the USB, it's a USB-C connector to the computer so that it has that computer interface. It powers it as well. So let me show you one of the things that is really cool. It's not on that one. So right here, you'll see you can either use a DC 5 volt, which is the same as your phones and things like that, or you can plug it into your computer for USB interface and power connection. It also has an SD card input, so if you wanted to record, it could record for you. What's really, really cool is it records all the tracks separately, including if you had music or intros and outros on the sound pads. It records everything separately and then puts it in. It's just amazing when it comes to that. So it's a pretty cool product. Strongly recommended too. But I wanted to show you here, let me touch this. So here you can see the controls for each of the inputs, and whether you're using those 2 symbols represent a condenser mic versus a dynamic mic versus a condenser. That little lightning bolt indicates that it requires 48 volt phantom power. Now that 48 volts sounds like weird. Why 48 volts? However it produces it, it's not going to shock you. It's not that level of voltage. I guess it's very low amperage. But if all you have to do to use it is switch that button over, then you'll see right here, I can't do both. On track number 3, on input number 3, it has a dynamic microphone, a condenser microphone, and then a cell phone. And that's the one that you would use if you had a cell phone connected via the Bluetooth, And then number 4 is dynamic condenser, and then the audio interface to the computer. And you can see if I turn this down, it'll turn my audio down because I'm going through you'll hear it on your end going through the computer. So it's a very capable piece of equipment. It's kind of nice to have that in background. Like I said, it frees up my real estate. Now, when I get my Rodecaster back, I will switch them out. But a good alternative if you're trying to run a studio is this Zoom PodTrack P4. I could highly recommend it. I mean, we're using it, and I just didn't set the attenuation. I'll make sure that by next show we have that fixed.
Oh, kind of pushed us into using it. So we brought all of this up tonight so that we could share with you that we do use a lot of technology. We have evolved over the years in what we use. We've gone anywhere from big cameras in the television studio down to a webcam, or we have the Zoom and a StreamYard, where we started was with the switcher and
recording and editing.
Yeah, well, even when we were doing the talk show in the studio, in the TV studio, a lot that was all prepared so that we didn't have to do much in the way of editing.
Yeah,
right?
no, that's what the technical director does for you, right? So the technical director is using that switcher to basically do a real-time edit, so that the finished product, because you are recording, right? so that the finished product is something that you don't have to go to editing with, except to probably trim the front and the back a little bit.
Right.
But if you don't have the benefit of 4 cameras and
And a crew.
and a crew and a studio
Yeah.
and a quiet room, insulated by double pane glass with a switcher and a technical director that knows what he's doing, you'd have to edit. Now you'd have 4 different videos
Right.
to edit from.
But the point being that we have a lot of experience, Toby especially, in setting up studios, troubleshooting equipment, making sure everything works well together, integrates. He's built studios from the ground up, filling them with lighting and cameras and audio and all the technology that's necessary to create a talk show on television, for one thing. And then we do it today with our YouTube studio. So we have that background, we have that experience. But the most important thing I think that we offer that not everybody does is that ability to troubleshoot. You come to us and you say, I've got this microphone that I can't figure out how it works and it's not working right. We will work with you. We will walk you through step by step until it does work. That's something that we offer our clients, and it's something that we're good at.
Is this a good time for a commercial?
Yeah, I thought that was a good time for that.
All right, let me go back over here.
So we made a little commercial to just kind of share with you what it is that we do and how we can help. Have you ever had a fantastic idea for a Facebook group, YouTube channel, podcast, online course, workshop, or an entire business, but gave up on it because of the online technology involved in making it happen? Or have you started the process only to find it requires an incredible amount of time, effort, and expense to create valuable digital content? Investing in this kind of social media content creation often means you use up all your resources wrangling technology instead of working with clients or sharing your message. Hi, I'm Shelley Carney with AGK Media Studio, your online solution to live streaming or recording video and audio presentations. The AGK Media Studio can put you in front of your audience immediately and eliminate the confusion and frustration of every erratic social media platform and unpredictable software integration. When you produce your videos with AGK Media Studio, you're the expert producer and we're your crew. We're here to support you and handle all the tech so you can focus on your topic and your audience. With our streamlined process, there's no editing necessary and your videos are ready as soon as you finish your presentation. Working with us means you can produce consistent, high-quality, live, interactive online videos now, today. We take care of the tech with our VIP service and give you a professional look that inspires admiration and respect. It starts with preparation. We will validate and certify your home office and branding for professional video best practices. Next is the production phase, where we record your presentation while embedding your branding and music into your video for a polished finish. Then, when you finish recording, you'll immediately receive video and audio files ready to upload to your channel or online teaching platform. What would it mean for your business if you could complete and upload all the video materials you need in just a few hours? Schedule a consultation call with AGK Media Studio today, and let's start live streaming or recording your video tomorrow. All right.
Good promo.
Yeah.
That was actually, I gotta quit yelling at this thing. That was actually the video that was causing us the issues with Vegas that we couldn't get past until we stopped using Vegas 18. So,
Yeah.
but as Shelley said, it's all about the ability to troubleshoot it. We have a lot of experience troubleshooting, not that we have a lot of problems, but because problems, as you migrate from one platform or one environment to the next, you're experimenting. This studio was set up and we had a very good idea of how it was going to work, but we had to work out the bugs before before we were comfortable with it. And even now, after years, we've been here in this studio now for 2 years. Suddenly, one of the systems that we relied upon, that we trusted, that we had experience, failed. And so you have to be able, and that's a big piece of equipment in all of this. That's the main audio control for everything that we do. And so you have to figure out what to do then. And that's what troubleshooting is all about, determining what's causing the problem, which are the components. And I want to go back to that example that Shelley used. And I'm not even sure how we got her. I think she was one of your group members, one of your networking, the lady with the microphone.
Oh, yeah. She's in my coaching group.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And she mentioned that she was having a problem with her microphone, and that it was based on, the microphone that somebody recommended for her, and she hadn't been able to get it to work right. And everybody was telling her that she sounded worse now than she did before. And I felt like Shelley was wise enough to say, "Oh, let's sit down with us for a while. We'll set up a call and we'll work it out with you." And I think, I don't know, it was 15, maybe 20 minutes as we walked her through. It was a Blue Yeti microphone, which is a pretty highly regarded microphone, but it was all about the settings and and how she was using it. And we fixed that for her. By the time we were done, she had a really good experience with her Blue Yeti microphone, and she was, she realized that was the sound that she wanted to start with. So we've just done this so much. Both, I was going to say, not only do you take all that studio experience, but you take all that live streaming experience that we did for organizations out in the field. That was a lot of troubleshooting. I mean,
There's a lot of moving parts, and if they don't integrate well together, then you are going to have problems.
Yeah.
It's not going to work.
And I think one of the important things that we offer to our clients is we can tell you where to start, and we can tell you what, based on the size of your desired investment. If you say, "Oh, all I've got is $500, we can tell you how to put together a live streaming studio on $500 or less. If you want to spend a little bit more, we'll make some other recommendations for you. But we know what works, because we're not going to recommend anything to you that we haven't used ourselves, that we don't have experience with ourselves.
Yeah. Although we can help you even if we haven't had experience. We never had a Blue Yeti before.
Right.
But we researched it, got it done.
All right. What's the rest of the week look like for us?
All right. I want to thank you all for being here tonight and for checking out technology troubleshooting. Tomorrow on Messages and Methods, we're going to get more deeply into the technology that Toby has experienced in his lifetime, why he used it, what he used, how it worked, and sometimes didn't work, and what he did when it didn't work. We're going to get into the history of that and tell some stories. Thursday, we'll get into the setup for an encore entrepreneur, online business owner. What do you need? What don't you need? And what do you do if things aren't working well together? And we'll talk about the integration of different pieces of equipment and software and what works best for the online entrepreneur. Anything else?
I don't know. I think we have something planned for Friday.
Oh, Friday. Sorry. I forgot, because Toby does this by himself and it's his passion. He's going to be bringing back, and he did bring it back on Friday. Fridays at 1:00, World Sand Project. He'll be unboxing and demonstrating another piece of microscopic equipment. Microscopic equipment.
Little tiny
Tiny little box unboxing.
Yeah. Actually, it's a big box like that. I'm going to be unboxing an Amscope T490B, which is my primary compound microscope. And I just recently replaced the old one with a new one. So you're going to get the benefit of that. All right. All right. I think that's, whoa. That attenuation is making me crazy.
Yeah, me too.
I hope it doesn't sound as bad to you guys as it does to me on this end.
Right.
I'll have it fixed by 2. I'll have it fixed by tomorrow night. All right. I think that's everything.
All right. We'll see you all tomorrow. And thanks for being with us.